I'm Yvette Rogers, Outreach Coordinator for Celtic Colours International Festival. Over the years, I've been so fortunate to travel to almost every corner of Cape Breton Island to work with some remarkable people who help make their communities what they are. This summer, I traveled around the island and met up with some folks along the way. Join me on a road trip and explore some of the unique communities and vibrant cultures that make this beautiful island the home of our hearts. Today we'll be exploring the eastern side of Cape Breton Island, a collection of rural communities and close-knit towns that make up the Cape Breton Regional Municipality. Immigration and industry have shaped these places, which is why it became known as Industrial Cape Breton. The hub of the region is the city of Sydney, and even within the city, there are neighborhoods that feel like communities in and of themselves. On the rugged eastern coast, you find the fishing village of Louisbourg, home of the Fortress of Louisbourg. This reconstructed 18th century French fortress town is a National Historic Site that allows you to walk through time and learn about this significant part of the area's history. As you travel along the coast, you can see the seams of coal set into the cliffsides that point to the robust mining industry that once shaped the development of many communities in this corner of the island. While there aren't any coal mines operating on Cape Breton these days, you can see evidence of this industrial past in the many company houses that still line the streets of these former mining towns. Mining in this area began more than 250 years ago, and at various times employed 12,000 coal miners and half as many steelworkers in the surrounding communities. I visited Mary Pat and Sheldon at the Cape Breton Miners Museum in Glace Bay to learn more.
The thing that resonates most with our visitors is the underground mine tour, and that's because, first off, you're going with a retired miner, so you're hearing actual history, and then you're going underground in a coal mine, so you're in the place of his work, so you get the real feel of what it's like to be underground in a coal mine with a coal miner as he tells you about his experience.
You can talk about it and tell about it, but until they go underground and actually see how hard it was that they had to work and how tough times were here. Mm-hmm. So when you take them underground and then when you bring them back up again, they are amazed. And like I had people coming up, I had people coming up crying because they realized then that how hard it was for their grandfather to work. Like we showed them underground the mining back in the early 1920s and 30s, and back in them days, of course, the mining was all done with a shovel. There was no big machines like we have here, so all the mining back in them days was all hand-loading mining, and they worked pretty hard. And well, in payday, they didn't get very much money because, of course, the companies owned everything that was in town, owned the houses, the stores, the power, the water, the coal yard. So you drew your pay. Everything was taken out of your pay before you even got a chance to see any money. So. And that's what we talk about and tell the people when we take them underground.
Walking through the company store, you get a glimpse of what life was like for miners and their families. It's hard to imagine the hardships they faced, with nearly every aspect of their lives being controlled by the company as they made their livelihood under such dangerous conditions.
It was quite an experience, I'll tell you that, the first day. Dropping down into a big cage, you would have to get into a cage. They would drop you down into this cage about 700 feet. And then when you got down to what we used to call a pit bottom, you would get into a rake, a little wooden box with no brakes on it. And it would take you out in a tunnel, 4.5 miles. And then you would transfer you into another one that would drop you down into the deeps. And that will take you down to the bottom of the deeps. And then you'd be close to 6 miles out and 2,700 feet below the ocean floor. And of course, mining, a lot of accidents. There's a gas embedded in the coal when you're mining the coal. It's called methane, and it's very dangerous. And you could have a fire, you could have an explosion, and there was a lot of accidents back in the earlier years because the companies didn't care about safety. They just interested in production. Every day wasn't a terrible day. There was a lot of fun underground, but when you went underground, of course, you worked with those guys. Well, they were like your family when you're underground, and everybody looked after one another, and you had to rely on them because, like, if you got hurt underground, there was no 911, and you had to rely on them guys to get you out. And I seen guys that would carry guys on stretchers, and they would carry them out, a mile, 2 miles, to get them out and get them onto a rake and get them to the surface.
That sense of brotherhood that miners relied on underground can be felt when the men of the deeps gather to sing. This choir of former coal miners embodies the spirit of unity and camaraderie that is such a prevalent part of their communities. The pride in the working class history and the heritage of labor has helped shape the identity of the people here.
It's a very close-knit community. You know everybody on your street and the street over, and you check in on people, and people check in on you. It's my clothesline fell down the other day when I was at work, and my neighbor came over and fixed it. It's just, that's the kind of community it is. It's a great place to live. I wouldn't want to live anywhere else.
Well, Sheldon, Mary, Pat, thank you so much for sharing your insight and your time with us.
Oh, thank you very much for coming.
Yeah, and thank you for your interest.
One of my grandfathers was a coal miner, and he worked underground in the community of Sydney Mines, where I took some time to reflect on my own family heritage, as well as the heritage of the communities in these close-knit and charming parts of the island.